Hello and welcome to the Adventures of LBZ. I am the host, Lance Collins, and if you're new to this channel, please consider hitting the subscribe button. Also, if you like this video, please hit the like button. In today's video, I will be assembling from the crate a 2022 Honda CRF250RX and doing a test ride at the end. If you're new to these videos, I do not play the actual audio from the video due to multiple radios and people's privacy at work. I want to keep doing these videos for you guys, so I have to do voiceovers with some music in the background. And the first thing I usually do on these is get the 8mm out and take off the battery cover and get this lithium-ion battery out and get it on the charger because it takes longer to charge than the bike does to build. And if you are curious what the charger is that I'm using, it is a Noco Genius 2, and this charger has, all the kinds of 12-volt settings and 6-volt, as well as a LiPo setting on it. So that's what I'm going to turn the charger onto and let this charge the battery while I build the rest of the bike. And after I get the battery out of the bike and on the charger, I get a pair of snips out and I cut all of the wire ties and things that are holding the accessories and handlebars into the crate. Then I'll grab a 10mm and disassemble the crate along with a 12mm to take off the center part of the crate where it connects to the handlebars. And if you're curious what the knife is, it is a Benchmade bug out. I've put a mini Griptilian belt clip on it. It's my daily driver. Used to use the mini Griptilian. I had to retire that thing after about 7 years. But what I'm doing is opening this box now, getting all of the bolts and tie downs and owner's manual and competition manual out of there, as well as the skids or skid plate and the rotor guard. I'll usually get all the stuff out of each bag, kind of set it up, make sure that all my nuts and bolts and stuff are there, and then go ahead and start assembling the bike. And no, I'm not trying to brag on any tools or knives or anything I'm using. I just go ahead and tell you what I'm using because I get people that put comments in my videos that ask me what I'm using, and if I know what it is, I'll list it. Obviously, I probably know what it is. I've had to pay for it all. But yeah, not trying to brag on any of this stuff, but it's nice so that you guys can know what I'm using. If you like something that I'm using, and you can buy it yourself. Now I'll go ahead and get the impact out and my 10mm and disassemble the outer shell of this crate. Like I said in most of my videos there, if it's on a lot of the Japanese, well, obviously there's Japanese brand bikes, but if it's from Japan, a lot of the bikes, when they come in these crates, will be assembled with 10 millimeters around the edging of the crates, and then like the handlebars and triple clamp areas will be a 12 millimeter. Not that you need to know that, because you'll probably never be assembling one of these from a crate unless you work at a dealership. And I get people who ask me what we do with these crates. At this particular dealership, we actually take the metal and take it to a scrap yard that recycles the metal, I should say, and they use the money that we get in return to do Christmas parties and stuff like that for the company. Pretty cool. And it's time to assemble the handlebars onto the triple clamp. As you can see, pretty much everything except for the front brake master cylinder is already connected to the bars whenever this particular model comes in. You just have to unwrap some of the plastic stuff that they put around it, which can sometimes be a pain in the ass. That white sticky material, looks like they just wrap tape around it, which is some kind of protective tape. On the throttle cables, that stuff sucks. It can take up a lot of your time whenever you're trying to get through something flat rate. But anyways, enough jibber jabbering. The bolts that I am putting in there are 10 millimeters. In the past, I think they were 12s, but now they're 10s. And the clamps are a fat bar clamp, because the bars, or the bike, comes with stock Renthal fat bars on it. And I'll go ahead and loosely put this together. There are little tiny white dots, as you can see just in that last clip there. That's where you line up your controls. The handlebars also at the triple clamp have one. It just puts it all into a factory position for the person that's going to purchase the bike. Of course, you know, they may move the bike or the bars back and forth, or the controls up and down and whatnot on it. But yeah, that's what we have to set it at from the factory, and your customer or consumer can do what they like with them after we've done it. And if you're curious, I'm using a Motion Pro 8mm T-handle to tighten down the master cylinder. Like all the bolts that I will be installing on this particular machine, I will go back over and do a final torque on them. I believe I set these triple clamp 10 mils to 120 inch-pounds, and then I do 84 inch-pounds on the master cylinder 8mm bolts. And to install the number plate on the front, I will use an 8mm T-handle again. And you don't get to see, but somebody walked in the clip, but I actually torqued that 8mm bolt to 84 inch-pounds on the number plate. I'm now going to put the wire ties on the bars that come with it. These wire ties you can actually remove without cutting them and reuse them, so pretty cool from Honda. What I'm doing now is installing the 10mm pinch bolts for the fork legs. I'll just kind of loosely screw these down a couple threads, and then get this bike onto a bike stand and install the axle and front wheel. Don't believe I get to show you guys me lifting this out of the crate, but that is for the privacy of the person that helped me. So I'll just snap my fingers and it'll be on the stand. And what I'm going to do now is clean this rotor off. What I'm going to use is the Motorex contact cleaner. The reason why I'm using this is just in case sometimes when you spray some of the other brake cleaners on there, it can discolor or fade painted surfaces. So just in case any of that gets on the rim, I don't want to change the color of it before the customer gets it. But yeah, I use that stuff and it seems to clean everything off there just fine and does not damage any of the surfaces I use it on. I'll go ahead and grab the Honda Rust Penetrant spray down the axle. I do not use anti-seize on off-road machines because it gunks up at the seals. And when you go off-road or go through lots of dust and dirt and grime, that anti-seize sticks the dirt and grime at the seal, grinds the seal out, which lets water into the bearing, and the rest is history. Then you are back in the shop as an unhappy customer having to pay to get new wheel bearings put in. So on the off-road stuff, I just use a penetrant oil just so that, you know, if anything does get in there, it still does not corrode and stick the axle in there. And what I did was I slid the axle through. I haven't tightened anything up yet. I went ahead and took the bike off the stand, pressed down on the forks to align the forks on the axle, and then I'll go ahead and torque everything down to what the spec was. I believe, let's see here, I think you can see here, it's going to be 55 or 65 foot-pounds for the front axle. And then the pinch bolts, I usually do them at 120 inch-pounds. And I really hate to do this, but about 95% of the people that view my videos are not subscribed to the channel. So if you could, please consider hitting the subscribe button. Also, if you like this video, hit the like button. Thanks. And if you wonder why I go back and forth on those with the torque wrench, it is because the aluminum kind of stretches, and you'll notice that when you tighten one up, the other one will be loose the next time. So I usually make sure that they break down the torque wrench 3 times before I finalize everything there. And I'll go ahead and put the rotor cover on. It is a 5mm Allen. I usually don't torque these down I usually just do them hand tight. You do not have to crank these things down. If you over tighten these, chances are they're going to strip out in the fork leg, and that is very expensive to fix. Also, now I'm going to put the skid plate on. It has some 8mm, and I'll use my T-handle to tighten those up. I don't get the torque wrench out on these two. Just hand snugging these is fine. You don't want to over tighten these because this is part of the frame, and if you strip them off, then you're going to have find some other way to attach a skid plate to the bottom. So I just put them in there, run them down till they stop, and just give them like a little tiny snug on there. But yeah, not a whole lot to this thing left to do. Check the oil, put the bar pad on. I'll make sure the chain slack is good. And then I'll put the battery back in this guy, fill the fuel up, make sure it has oil, and then we will go for a test ride. Now I'll go ahead and fill the tires up. I set these at 15 pounds. I'm sure people, when they get them, they're going to let air out of them. We just have to set them up to 15 so that there is no flat spots or anything from shipping. If you notice on the X model, the rear rim is an 18 instead of a 19. It comes with a taller sidewall of a tire so that if you're running this thing off-road, you can run a little lower air pressure and you got a lot more sidewall to protect the tube from getting a pinch in it. And time to fill up the fuel. We used a 93 octane here at this particular dealership, and we treat it with the Honda ethanol fuel stabilizer. I'll go ahead and fill this thing all the way up, and we'll go ahead and wipe it down afterwards and get it ready for the test ride. And as you can see, I use the Honda spray polish and cleaner, and I'll go ahead and wipe this thing down. What you did not see, because somebody was standing in the frame, was before I got my microfiber in this out, I actually took some air from my air blower and blew the bike down to make sure there wasn't any kinds of hard stuff on there, metal, whatever, anything from shipping, so that whenever I polish this bike up, it does not scratch the plastic. It just shines it up. And now that the battery is fully charged, believe it or not, this thing probably took an hour for it to charge. So I had changed a couple tires for a customer waiting in between. And now I will take a little bit of silicone spray. That is the Honda silicone spray. There's a plastic or rubber mat that is on this battery. And if you have some of that, it will definitely make your life easier when you're installing this battery back into the case, because it is very tight and that rubber puts a lot of drag on the battery when you're trying to push it in. So yeah, I'll go ahead and get this thing in there. We'll get it tightened down, which sometimes can be a pain in the ass and looks like a struggle because of how short the terminals are and the tight spot that you got to put in, but we'll get it done. To tighten these terminals down, you can use a Phillips screwdriver or an 8mm, and I use a Phillips because it's easier to press the terminal in to get it to touch the nut on the back side of it and get it to start. And we'll get this battery cover on. It is 2 8mm. I will use my Motion Pro 8mm T-handle to go ahead and snug these bolts down. And that is it for the assembly part. I'll go ahead and do a little walk around here and kind of show you what this bad boy looks like. Get an under view. If you're not familiar with these new CRFs, the last few years of them, they actually have a single drain plug on the bottom. It's a big giant like Allen, and only one side to fill the oil, instead of like the past they had a oil side and a transmission side. What you don't see is after I get done test riding this bike, I actually go back and adjust the chain out. It gets a little sloppier whenever I test ride. This is the 2022 Honda CRF250RX. Not a whole lot changed. They changed some stuff up on it, but visually though it looks about the same as last year's model, other than this fancy clamp they got here on the exhaust now. I'm not going to do a really big test ride today because the parking lot is wet, and thing is brand new, and motocross tires on this slick sealed asphalt doesn't do too well. But same controls as all your other CRFs that are off-road versions there. Brake, clutch, this one has a cable clutch, your kill switch and maps, start button, does not have a Kickstarter on it, has the LiPo battery. We'll go ahead and start this thing up. I guess it helps if I have it in neutral. And actually didn't even get to ride it outside because as soon as I went to take off, it started downpouring, and you get to see me ride it in the warehouse for a couple seconds. I didn't actually get to take this thing out and really stretch it out on the pavement out front anyways, but yeah. And that's going to be it for today's video. If you're new to my channel, please consider hitting the subscribe button. Also, if you like this video, please hit the like button. And as always, thanks and have a great day.